Alright, welcome to the texturing tutorial in Maya. So we are here in the familiar place. It's the same kind of setup as I had for the mug rendering. If you have questions about that, please go watch that other video. And so here I have loaded my low resolution mesh. I've imported my low resolution mesh, the same one that I imported into Substance Painter. Let's start texturing it. So first we're going to go into our Hypershade. We are going to create a new material, AI standard surface, and I'm gonna right away name it. I'm gonna name it skin. So here it is right there. Then I'm gonna select my model. I'm gonna right click on the skin and say assign material to selection. So now it's assigned. Great. So let's start loading our maps. So we only have 3, so it should be pretty easy. We have the 4th for subsurface scattering, but I'm going to talk about that later. So first is the color right here. So click on skin, this opens color. I'm going to click on the checkered box, click on file, and here load the file from the folder. Navigate to our file. It's going to be base color, PNG. Cool. Open it. Everything else stays the same. There it is loaded. Right, then I'm going to click on skin out here again. Next thing we have is our roughness. So I'm going to click on the checkered box again, load the file. Right, same thing as always. Roughness right here, PNG. One thing for here is you gotta make sure you go to utility and raw for color space, as well as check alpha is luminance. That's pretty important. Alright, go out again. And lastly, we have geometry, which is bump mapping, which is a normal map. So I'm going to click on the checkered box, select file. Here, it's important to say use as tangent space normals instead of bump. And then bump value is where you're going to import your file. So clicking right here, navigating to it again, and normal right here. Open. Color space, same thing, raw. However, alpha is luminance is checked off for this one. So that's pretty important as well. Alright, so the main maps are loaded. We could see that, doesn't look so good. It looks very pixelated because every polygon is visible. So that is an easy fix. You select the object, you go into edge mode, and you click and drag and select all of the object, right? And then you go to mesh display, soften edge. Boom, soften edge, click off of it, and now it looks similar to what it looked like in Substance, right? So you can see the normal map works really great, everything is good. However, it does look a little waxy. So that happens sometimes, that the softwares, when they talk to each other, the maps don't export just exactly the same, which is totally fine. We can always adjust. I'm gonna go over to my Hypershade again. I'm seeing this right here, and I can modify the amount, the weight of my roughness. So see, now it's not rough at all, and now it kind of, here it is, kind of become going up and down, right? So if I look right here, I can see the weight of my roughness, right? So that looks a bit better, right? So it's still kind of sort of reflective, right? But not too much. But you can always mess with it right here in the roughness weight. So the lips was the only rough part, and you see how even when we mess with the weight, the lips are always going to be more rough than everything else. So it kind of like tones down the overall roughness, but our map is still in effect. So that's pretty important to know. So that's something we can mess with. And so another thing that I wanted to talk to you about is subsurface scattering. So subsurface scattering basically happens in real life because rarely any object is completely solid. So basically subsurface scattering is what happens when light bounces inside of something. So for example, when you put a flashlight against your fingers, it's red, right? So because the light bounces inside of your fingers. So for the render to look a little more realistic, we can apply subsurface scattering to our model. So I'm gonna close all these, and there's a tab called subsurface.
So by default, right, when you drag it up, it basically becomes more translucent almost, right? So it's easier to see when you look through the light. I'm gonna go ahead and hide this. When you look through the light, it's kind of easier to see in the render view. So I'm gonna go Arnold render. So when I put up my subsurface scattering, you can see that it kind of becomes a little lighter in certain areas. For example, where it's thinner, you see it becomes a little lighter. And the cool thing is that there's subsurface color, and I can select my color, and it's most likely going to be something, you know, fleshy red, because our blood is red. So if I select this kind of pinkish red color, right, I can see how it looks translucent, right? My model does, especially like looking through the light. The ears are completely translucent, and the whole head is kind of looks like a little rubbery, right? Same kind of thing up here. You can see the eyes look very rubbery, right? So you definitely see that translucency, that subsurface scattering. However,
in real life, the subsurface scattering only happens in places where our skin is thinner. So this is where our thickness map comes in, that we can load in the subsurface scattering weight right here. So then it's going to kind of control for us which parts are going to be more and which parts are going to be less subsurface scattered. So just a cool, neat little trick. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. Put it right here. Another thing you have to understand is that the viewport, the viewport and the render view are always going to be slightly different, even if you have the lights on. So always check in the render view. So yeah, all right. Subsurface scattering. In the weight, we're going to click on the checker box, load the file, go ahead and load our exported map. So that was this one. This is what we have exported. I'm going to click open, and I'm going to go to raw as always. Alpha is luminance checked, but I'm seeing here that definitely it is inverted, because where the model is thinner, we actually have less subsurface scattering. So you can see here, like the nose is a little darker actually, and the eyes and the ears and stuff. So we need to invert this mask. With this window open in the attribute editor, right, I'm going to go scroll down, I'm going to go into effect, and I'm going to say invert. So now that inverted our map. So now if I click off of this, I can see it's the opposite effect of everything here being a lot more light than the face, the head, right? So looks kind of funny in this view. However, if you go into render view, also looks kind of funny. So it's way too translucent. So that is, the effect is overpowering. So what we need to do is we can go back in here, and we can go back into Hypershade in the specular, oh sorry, in the subsurface, in the weight right here, and we can modify the alpha gain that works best for us. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and modify it. So offset is gonna basically make everything, affect everything. So I'm gonna have a little tiny bit of everything, because at the end of the day we are not solid. So I'm gonna have a little bit of alpha offset, and then in the places where it's more thinner, this affects our map, right? So see right here. So I'm gonna put it up just a touch and see how that looks. And I need to make sure that it's not too much, like right here, right? Because that's a little unrealistic. And then another thing we can do is to go out back out in the skin and actually darken this color a little bit. Make it a little darker so that it's more kind of fleshy, right? So I'm gonna go back in here and see how that looks now. A little bit better. So now everything looks kind of a little more red. So I can, yeah, mess with these values. Maybe put it such down. Cool. Well, I can definitely see it looks kind of a little bit rubbery, a little bit translucent. And I'm going to go back out here. Gonna dim it down just a touch. Maybe like so. All right. Well, this looks pretty good. I like this. So, yeah, that's about it with the shading.